Your heartbeat has just come to a halt. A moment ago, it was pumping steadily, and suddenly, it's silent. That quick, that basic. This marks the very first instant, and what unfolds during the following minute is something researchers are just starting to grasp. Because as it happens, the instant of death could be when your brain reaches its peak activity. Let's begin from the start. The initial thing that occurs once your heart quits is essentially nothing. At least nothing perceptible to you. Your blood pressure falls straight to nothing. The roughly 5 liters of blood flowing through you only seconds before now remain motionless. With no pump running, nothing moves or gets delivered. But here's what's interesting. Your brain hasn't registered this yet. During the opening 10 seconds, your brain keeps operating on the remaining oxygen in your bloodstream. Your neurons continue to fire. Whatever you were thinking keeps going. You're still, in a technical sense, yourself. But that opportunity is shrinking rapidly. Roughly 10 seconds later, things shift. Your brain, the organ that demands the most oxygen of all, using about 1/5 of your body's total oxygen at any moment, begins detecting that supplies are no longer arriving. The cerebral cortex, the region handling conscious thinking, starts powering down. This is typically when people black out. Your eyes no longer register images. Your ears no longer pick up sound. To onlookers, you appear absent. But internally, something quite different could be unfolding. In 2023, University of Michigan neuroscientist Jimo Borjigin released research that reshaped our understanding of death. Her research group tracked brain signals in 4 comatose patients while life support was withdrawn. What they anticipated was a gradual, silent dimming, with neural activity tapering off like a machine running out of energy. That isn't what turned up. In half of the 4 cases, mere seconds after oxygen loss, the brain reacted in a way nobody foresaw. It spiked. An enormous burst of gamma waves erupted throughout the brain. Gamma waves are the same signals linked to awareness, alertness, recalling memories, and dreaming. And this wasn't chaotic static. The pattern was coherent and organized, centered in an area known as the temporoparietal occipital junction, a zone that earlier studies have connected to out-of-body sensations and vision processing. Borjigin reacted to her own data with a plain statement. She described the spike as remarkably intense. Let's stop for a moment here, since this is where hard data runs into something far tougher to account for. For years, individuals revived after clinical death have described experiences that resemble strangely what this brain spike could generate. Blinding light, the sensation of hovering outside their own body, a calm so profound that words fail to capture it. Then comes the life review. You've likely heard people say your life flashes before your eyes. Most assume this refers to the greatest moments, your marriage day, your child's birth, your biggest accomplishments. But those who've lived through it insist that's not accurate at all. It isn't the major milestones, it's the minor, everyday ones. It's cycling around as a child. It's sitting at your desk scrolling emails on an unremarkable Tuesday. It's a pale-colored cat on some stairs you can't even recall. That particular example actually happened. One young man revived from clinical death recounted spotting a white cat on a staircase during his life review. He couldn't identify where the memory came from. He had no memory of ever setting foot in that building. Once he'd recovered, he described the stairs, the apartment's layout, and the cat to his mother. She confirmed they had once lived in precisely that building, with those exact stairs beside a neighbor with a white cat. He was only 14 months old when the family relocated. This brings up a question neuroscience hasn't managed to resolve. Do all our memories remain stored somewhere? Every one of them? And could the brain, in its last burst of activity, somehow open up that whole archive? No one knows. But the brainwave readings hint at something more complex than a straightforward power down. Let's return our focus to the body, because as the brain lights up, everything else is fading out. About half a minute after cardiac arrest, your blood stops transporting oxygen entirely. Every one of your roughly 37 trillion cells begins to register this. They start shifting from oxygen-dependent aerobic respiration to the oxygen-free anaerobic kind. This fallback mechanism generates energy, but it also creates lactic acid as a byproduct. And that acid accumulates quickly. Your muscles, cut off from signals from an active brain, fully go limp, your jaw falls open, your eyelids can no longer stay closed. Had you been upright, you would have already collapsed. Your pupils widen and stop responding. The muscles that usually regulate pupil size in response to light have gone limp. Your eyes, physically still whole, are now merely lenses with nobody operating them. Or is that really true? Because this is where things turn odd once more. Dr. Sam Parnia, who studies resuscitation at New York University, has devoted more than 20 years to examining consciousness during cardiac arrest. His AWARE research, the largest project of its type, has looked at hundreds of cardiac arrest patients across 25 hospitals. The results are difficult to brush aside. In AWARE 2, released in 2023, about 40% of survivors of cardiac arrest reported experiencing some form of awareness while clinically dead. Roughly a fifth described what scientists now term a recalled experience of death. Coherent thinking, vivid memories, and a genuine sense of awareness. And close to 3% said they had complete visual and hearing awareness. They were able to see and hear, even while their hearts weren't beating and their brains displayed no visible activity to those nearby. One recurring account from survivors is the sense that someone else was present with them. They spoke of seeing a relative who had passed away, a grandparent, a parent, someone who appeared to be waiting there just for them. Some claim this figure told them it wasn't yet their moment to go. Others report being led somewhere. Whether this comes from the brain crafting one last reassuring illusion or from something else altogether remains unresolved by science. What the evidence does reveal, however, is the following. For a great many people, dying itself doesn't hurt. It isn't gloomy. It isn't hollow. By most descriptions, it's calm. Now let's shift our attention back to the body. By roughly the 1-minute mark, cellular damage grows severe, though it isn't yet irreversible. This difference matters a great deal because this is still the period where reviving someone remains achievable. If CPR begins at this point, or if a defibrillator sends a jolt, there's still an opportunity to undo what's occurred. Neurons can endure roughly 4 to 6 minutes without oxygen before lasting harm begins. This means that at 60 seconds, you occupy a sort of biological in-between state, not alive by conventional standards, yet not permanently gone either. Your body's temperature has hardly shifted. Your skin starts turning pale as blood withdraws from the capillaries, close to the surface. Within your cells, enzymes once safely enclosed by membranes begin escaping as those membranes deteriorate under the growing acid. This marks the earliest stage of a process known as autolysis, essentially self-digestion. Your cells starting to dismantle themselves, but it's only just begun. 1 minute in, the vast majority of your cells remain intact, structurally sound, still holding on. The question becomes, holding on for what exactly? There are two possible answers, and both hold true. Medically speaking, they're holding out for oxygen to return. Should circulation resume within the following few minutes, a large number of these cells can bounce back. This process is reversible, and it happens daily in hospitals across the globe. The second answer, though, is tougher to articulate, because if help never arrives, no CPR, no defibrillator, no medical intervention, then this minute becomes your final one on this side of existence. And given everything currently known, the brainwave findings, survivor testimonies, decades of studies, it seems your brain didn't spend that minute quietly powering off. Instead, it used the time to switch on. Every second you're granted is one that someone else has already lost forever. Those who return from the brink don't come back craving more wealth or prestige. What they want is more time spent with the people dear to them, more attentiveness during the moments that seem insignificant. Because, as it happens, those are exactly the moments that replay at the very end. It isn't the accomplishments or the big markers. It's the unremarkable Tuesday afternoons you assumed no one was capturing. Your brain, it turns out, was capturing every bit of it. And in that last minute, it may replay the entire reel.